Correspondent Dana Griffin joins us now with the latest from Tucson. Dana, good morning. I know we're seeing this increase in law enforcement activity throughout the county. There are several hundred detectives and agents. They're on the ground there, and I understand there are some potential new clues in this case. Tell us what investigators are focusing on.
Yeah, Joe, so according to our Tucson affiliate, KVOA, they say that investigators found a pair of gloves yesterday while investigators were fanned out across the Catalina foothills here and beyond in Nancy's neighborhood trying to discover new clues. Nancy Guthrie's neighbors also say that because they have Ring doorbell cameras, investigators have asked them for footage from specific dates and times. According to KVOA, again, they say those dates, January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight. That is more than 3 weeks before Nancy's disappearance. Also, the morning before she was reported missing, January 31st between 9:30 and 11 a.m. And hopefully that signals that investigators may have some lead that they are following up on, and they are getting the neighbors involved as well.
Let's bring in former Secret Service agent, special agent, and NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Pomporis for more analysis. So we have more possible clues that are coming in. Of the new possible evidence, what's standing out to you as most important to focus on?
Well, we focused on the video footage, which does help, and there's a couple of things you can glean from those. And it's not just the movement and gait that the video footage shows. People can maybe recognize the individual, people that know the person, also anybody that may have had contact with someone wearing those clothing, sourcing the merchandise, even items like a backpack, finding out where they were purchased, where they were sold. Those are a lot of those indicators do help. The shoes, what shoes they're wearing, I've talked about this before, because now you know what foot impressions to look for in the immediate area, maybe surrounding areas. So that helps. The fact that they're stopping and starting to talk to people and do searches, I think it's important. Even if it clears somebody, it's one lead that you don't need to follow any further. And we do see them kind of going back door to door, canvassing neighborhoods again, talking to people again, getting more footage. We've even seen the push out of the perimeter. Yesterday we saw they were in the foothills looking for additional clues, maybe something that could have been discarded, clothing, gloves, items, tire tracks. Again, you want to canvass as much as possible because, to be quite frank, we're in day 12 here.
Yeah, and asking for the footage over a 3-week stretch, why is that such a long period there? What are they looking for?
Well, you're probably looking for individuals who may have done reconnaissance or individuals who have come into the area. You're looking for everybody. You're trying to create a box of movement. So if I'm looking at who's coming into an area, I'm going to start eliminating people. Okay, who lives here? Okay, you don't count, you don't count, you don't count. Probably, right? And then it's like, who came to do service? Gardeners, delivery drivers, anybody who worked on the house, anybody that shouldn't be there. Reconnaissance. Although I will say, sometimes you don't physically need to go to a house to do reconnaissance. You go to Google Maps, you can pull up anybody's house if they haven't blurred it out. So you're looking for any type of movement, somebody kind of going through the neighborhood that stands out to you. And can you match any of those movements up either through license plate readers or traffic cams or cell phone, which I don't think we have, with anybody who came into that area that evening and committed this crime.
When you look at the location of where this happened, what is it about that location that is making things difficult?
It's dark, it's desolate. Everybody talks about the landscaping. At the White House, it's designed, the landscaping is designed to conceal your ability from the outside to look in. And when I heard about the landscaping here, that it's really hard from the outside to look into the house, it reminded me of the White House. So from one side, it's, one aspect it's nice because it's private, but from the other aspect, it's dark, you can't see. There's lack of lighting, and all those things really add to the ability to hide out and commit nefarious activity.
What do you think comes next in this investigation? What's the key? Is still perhaps the most important thing having someone who truly knows something coming forward with information?
Here's the problem. We don't know if anybody's really coming forward. We've had ransom notes and nobody's been able to say that they're actual legitimate ransom notes that are tied to this case. So there's a couple of concerns here. It's what's going on? You're in day 12. Usually there's some type of communication, right? This is what I want. They really don't typically want to hold on to the person if they want ransom. It's like, I want my money and I want out. So the concerning part is what is happening here? And, and I've been reluctant to kind of share certain things because we're here at the NBC family, but my concern goes straight to the well-being. Is she still okay? You know, a lot of times people may plan an attack or plan an invasion, or is it a kidnapping and maybe it went wrong somehow, and is she still all right? Did something change along the course of the way? Because just anytime you're planning criminal activity, it's not always going to go the way you think it's going to go. There's so many things that happen. She's elderly. Did something happen to her? We know there's blood splatter at the front door. Was she bleeding? Is she all right? So these are the things that start to concern me, because there's this kind of lack of communication. Usually with negotiations, what you hear is, this is what I want, there's communication, there's a goal, and here we kind of have nothing.
Of course, we all could just continue to pray and hold out for the absolute best for Nancy Guthrie and her health and well-being. Abby, we appreciate your expertise. Thanks for joining us. In a firing hearing on Capitol Hill, lawmakers went face-to-face with Attorney General Pam Bondi. Democratic representatives and one Republican focused on the Department of Justice's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case with victims in the room. Take a look at one key moment from that hearing.
Please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi,
no, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you.
News Now anchor Hallie Jackson interviewed 6 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and their family members. She asked them about Bondi's testimony and if they think the DOJ has taken accountability. The survivors told her they feel like the DOJ is abandoning them. Here's some of that interview.
So, with a show of hands, can you show me your hands if you were satisfied with what you heard from the Attorney General today? Nobody. Show of hands if you are frustrated with what you heard.
Very much so.
Very much so. Teresa, tell me more about that.
Well, going into this morning, and much of this process, I have this perspective that you need to give people the opportunity to do what they say they're going to do, to fulfill their word, put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. And we have yet again seen that go the complete opposite direction of there's no integrity. There was no integrity in that room today, it seemed like, as far when it came to Epstein and Maxwell. And there was nothing that gave us any bit of hope of any kind of integrity and doing the right thing when it comes to Epstein, Maxwell, accountability, further investigation, which she claimed was happening. And we're going to be waiting to see the outcome of that and see if that's an accurate, legitimate statement.
There was such a lack of empathy today. There was such a lack of, honestly, humanity today. Something that, you know, I think all of us felt a little devastated about was that she had 3 opportunities to address survivors. We stood up, and all she had to do was turn around, and she could not even turn around and face us. For so many years, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I felt like such a ghost walking through Epstein's mansion.
Charlene, what did you think of that moment when you all were standing there and she was asked by one of the members of Congress to turn around and address you?
I felt really degraded. I felt that she's not taking at all any accountability. She's not following any kind of transparency. And honestly, the thought that I have is birds of a feather flock together.
In her opening remarks, the Attorney General said, "I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster."
Of that monster. But not. So there's the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, and then there's the crimes of the cover-up. And she's part of that continuing cover-up. So she didn't apologize for that.
When we are constantly, you know, being manipulated and downplayed by our government, you know, we've heard several times our government say We're moving on from this, and that just enrages me.
Yeah.
This has been 3 decades of my life. We'd all love to move on with this, but how do you move on if you don't have justice?
She also said, you know, she was talking about anybody can go to the FBI. Any survivor right now can go to the FBI. And then we saw 302s that are full pages of black that even our congressional leaders can't get access to. So we've gone to the FBI. We've done the legwork. We've done everything we know how to do. And then to gaslight the American people and stand up there and say, well, they need to come over. They need to come talk to us. It's like, I don't know what else we have to do. We're here at the hearing. Like, we are doing everything we possibly can. So please tell us what else we need to do.
How much more of a cost do survivors need to pay? I said in my speech today, we're not here for theatrics. And she's like, oh, the theater. And I'm like, yes, you're the main character in this.
The circus act.
Yes.
Yeah. She was a comedian
Really
today.
well said. Yes.
Everyone was laughing at her.
Our thanks to Hallie Jackson for bringing us that interview. Now, in that contentious hearing, Attorney General Bondi read from pre-written talking points. She also sang the president's praises, touting things not related to her job, like the stock market. Well, Bondi faced that grilling from lawmakers on President Trump's agenda. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright arrived in Venezuela on Wednesday. He is the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit that country since President Nicolas Maduro's ouster by the U.S. earlier this year. Also back at the White House, President Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for an important meeting focused on Iran. Here to talk about all of these headlines out of Washington, we've got NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach joining us. Gary, good morning. Let's start with more on that Capitol Hill hearing. We know lawmakers got into these heated exchanges with Bondi over the Trump administration's transparency in handling the Epstein files, the release of them. We just saw one example moments ago of how she responded to that questioning. Beyond that, how else did she handle the incoming fire, and what else was she pressed on?
Yeah, heated might be an understatement there, Joe. It was a screaming match it devolved into at some points during the several-hour hearing yesterday, because members of the House Judiciary, particularly Democrats, wanted to know several things. One of them being what exactly the Department of Justice is doing about the files and how they have gone over the past several months, from the slow release to the mistaken thousands of redactions that were or were not there of some of the victims' personal information like names, addresses, phone numbers, and also whether there's any continued investigation into potential co-conspirators. We know Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell did not necessarily act alone in all of this. So that was some of what was hoped to be gotten from the Democrats on the committee. But in response, Attorney General Pam Bondi called Thomas Massie a failed politician. She called Jamie Raskin a washed-up lawyer. And she suggested Congresswoman Jayapal of theatrics. And you just heard it there from some of the victims. They're very upset with how this went.
Yeah, and they're not going to stop pressing for more answers there. Let's shift gears a bit, Gary. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, he arrived in Venezuela yesterday. He's taking a look at the country's oil industry. So where does the U.S. relationship with Venezuela stand now after the capture of Nicolas Maduro earlier this year?
Yeah, our Kristen Welker is actually on the ground in Caracas with the Energy Secretary. Incredibly rare for a U.S. TV network to be doing this. And she's talked with the Energy Secretary, and she says that apparently they're going to start rebuilding their relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela peacefully. He says, Secretary Wright says, without troops on the ground, without bullets being fired, but through commerce. That is what he told Kristen Welker. And for Wright, it all revolves around the relationship with Nicolas Maduro's number 2 in command, Delcy Rodriguez. There was a working dinner between Wright and Rodriguez last night that he said went well, and their relationship over the first month has gone well. But I do want to mention an exclusive interview that just came out with Delcy Rodriguez and Kristen Welker, where she says Nicolas Maduro is a legitimate president and he is innocent along with the First Lady. So clearly there's still quite a gulf between the U.S. and Venezuela.
And we will bring you more of that exclusive interview coming up in the next hour. One more headline to get to, Gary. President Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House yesterday. Obviously a high-profile meeting that comes as the U.S. holds these indirect talks with Iran about its nuclear program. What did they discuss?
Yeah, usually when a high-profile foreign official comes to the U.S. and comes to the Oval Office, there's cameras, there's a big event that the president likes to put on. That did not happen yesterday. It was all behind closed doors, which I think speaks to the tenuous relationship between the two leaders. And according to the President Trump, not a whole lot got accomplished, but he did insist negotiations continue with Iran, but said other than that, quote, nothing definitive came out of the meeting.
All right,
Joe.
Gary Grumbach, a lot to cover this morning. Thank you so much. There are still unanswered questions surrounding that abrupt closure of El Paso International Airport yesterday. Flight service has now resumed after the FAA lifted what was supposed to be a 10-day shutdown of the airport. Then it reopened after just 6 hours. What's causing so much confusion? The conflicting explanations from the FAA and the Pentagon as to why that airspace was even closed in the first place. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the latest.
The question, did the FAA close El Paso's airspace due to Mexican drug cartel drones, or because the FAA was worried about new anti-drone lasers being tested near the airport?
For the next 10 days, we're stopped, all kinds of stuff. So the airport's totally closed? Apparently.
The FAA's Notice to Airmen, or NOTAM, said El Paso had been designated National Defense Airspace, and the government may use deadly force against airborne aircraft that don't adhere to the order. But congressional, military, and aviation sources say the airspace was closed because of a dispute between the FAA and the military, as the government tests new laser technology to target cartel drones at Fort Bliss Army Base right next to the airport. Medical evac flights rerouted to New Mexico, airline passengers grounded.
Makes you wonder what could be happening.
But just a few hours later, the FAA reopened the airspace, and administration officials saying Mexican cartel drones breached U.S. airspace. The Department of War took action to disable the drones. From DOT Secretary Duffy, the threat has been neutralized. There is no danger to commercial travel in the region. Sitting on the border, El Paso's airport serves both Texas and New Mexico with 100 flights a day.
Decisions made without notice or coordination puts lives at risk and creates unnecessary danger and confusion.
The FAA hasn't moved to close airspace for days on end since 9/11. Government agencies have been warning about drug cartel drones, but this week their lasers brought down a party balloon rather than a drone. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. For more analysis on this, let's bring in Jeffrey Needles. He's a retired Air Force fighter pilot. He's also what's known as an air dominance system expert, which will help us delve into some of these issues here. Jeffrey, good morning. We know the FAA initially announced it was closing the airspace for 10 days, then reopened just hours later, not even 1 day. This is a busy airport. It's important to the region. First, help us understand just how unusual is it for the FAA to make an announcement like this seemingly out of nowhere?
As you highlighted earlier, we haven't seen this sort of thing since immediately following 9/11. The airspace along the border sits over the top of some national defense areas that are cooperatively used by Department of Homeland Support, DHS, and by the Department of War. And usually there are letters of agreement between the FAA and these organizations about how the airspace over the top of these are used. So obviously something occurred, and the FAA had a concern for the safety of civilian aircraft operations. Unfortunately, I think that we saw a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction because of some sort of breakdown in the liaison between these organizations.
Yep.
But I think that the FAA is probably actively working to debrief to figure out how that decision was made and how do they make it more effectively in the future.
What do you make of those conflicting explanations between the two departments as to why it was closed in the first place?
Yeah, like I said, what you see is you have a couple of different organizations. You have DHS and CBP as the primary, having the primary mission for border security, but then you also have the Department of War in support of that through the U.S. NORTHCOM. Last summer, we saw an executive order pushing the fielding of counter drone systems for warfighters and battlefields, as well as for border security. And the Department of War created a Joint Interagency Task Force 401, which streamlined the acquisition of counter-UAS systems for all of these purposes. That was very effective, and we see in the last couple of months the fielding of these systems, which really is a breakover in technology, that we're not just talking about the future state of being able to shoot down drones, but we're actually doing it. But what we saw immediately after 9/11 was NORAD and the FAA had to remember how to intercept potentially threat aircraft like we did during the Cold War. And it took years to refine those procedures about how to do it better. And I think that because this is sort of a seminal moment of one of the first times that we've actually employed one of these operational systems to shoot down a drone, that there's going to be a lot of hot wash involved where people are going to say, okay, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? And how do we continue to refine these procedures to do it better in the future?
Jeffrey, just real quick here, just how much of a threat to safety and security are these cartel drones?
We're seeing thousands of them on a regular basis. And it's not just cartel drones. They're being operated by state and non-state actors for various nefarious reasons. You could probably remember 2 years ago, there were a lot of incursions over the top of U.S. military facilities in Norfolk and New Jersey. There's a lot of concerns about critical infrastructure like power plants, power grid, things of those nature. So really, like this is a much bigger conversation. And it's being had by NORAD, it's being had by DHS and U.S. Northcom about who has responsibility and authority to shoot down drones, and in which airspace, and what are the rules of engagement to do that. And they are delineating that conversation by how big the drone is, what type of drone it is, how fast it's going, what altitude, and things of those nature.
All right. We all remember that mystery over New Jersey for sure. All right. Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your analysis this morning. Time now for your morning News Now weather. We've got the latest on a big southern storm that could carry over into the weekend. Meteorologist Melissa McGee has your forecast. Melissa, good morning.
And good morning, everyone. We're tracking a pretty active pattern that's going to set up across the southern plains states, especially as we head into our Friday. So we're tracking this short wave that's crossing along the southern tier and heavy rain expanding into Texas as well as Oklahoma. This will continue to travel to the east. Soaking rain is possible for much of the lower Mississippi Valley and some gusty storms right along the Gulf Coast states as well. As we head into the rest of our weekend, downpours are possible from Florida up through Virginia. Watching this storm system as it moves offshore because it could curve up to the north over the mid-Atlantic region. So we're tracking that very closely for you. In terms of rainfall amounts, we could find 1 to 3 inches of rain from Texas all the way over into the Carolinas. The rainfall is beneficial. A lot of these spots have anywhere from abnormally dry to extreme drought conditions. We need the rain. We just don't want it all at once because flash flooding is likely. Out across the other side of the United States, a West Coast storm on Sunday taking aim right at California. Heavy rain moves in and mountain snow. So this is a colder storm as we tap into an atmospheric river. Widespread rain anticipated as we head into our Monday. Flooding possible near some of our burn scar areas. Slow travel, I would anticipate that, and some gusty winds. In terms of potential rainfall, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain along the coast. Locally higher amounts than that as we travel across the higher terrain. And we've got widespread warmth as Mother Nature takes a bit of a break from winter. 75 in Dallas for you today. And then as we head into tomorrow, we've got temperatures in Wichita around 64 degrees. So it's mostly mild across much of the Northeast. Look at this in St. Louis, 53 for the start of your weekend on Saturday. Then once we head into Monday and at 62 degrees. And finally out of the deep freeze in Washington, D.C. for the start of your weekend, you've got a high temperature of 53. That's not too bad. Right. That's a look at your national weather. Now back to you.
We'll take mostly mild. Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.